It says, "Vayakel Moshe kol adas bnei Yisrael vayomer aleim." Moshe Rabbeinu gathered all the Jewish people. The question is, always they come. What he has to gather them? Always when Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to the Jewish people, they gathered to hear what he says. Yisro says, "Listen, the whole nation is standing on top of him from morning to night." This was right after Yom Kippur. And when Yisro told them it's too much, as Rashi says, "Lemocher as Yom Kippurim kshorim ino, v'hu lo shoin ifil she'eno oisef anoshim biyodai." Rashi says he didn't gather the people by hand. Ele em sofim al pi diburoi, they are gathering according to his words. So the question is, okay, so they gathered because he said, "Come over." All the time when Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to the Jewish people, he wanted everybody to come to hear what he says. What's special here that the Torah mentions, "Vayakel Moshe kol adas bnei Yisrael"? He gathered all the congregation of the children of Israel. This needs explanation. The Ramban saying, the Ramban answers that he specifically wanted everybody to participate in donation in building the Mishkan. The Mishkan represents the love of Hashem to the Jews and the Jews to Hashem. See, here he didn't want that the donation will come only from the men. The donation will come only from the rich. He wanted Kol Adas Bnei Yisrael. The Ramban's language is Anoshim Anoshim Ki Kulo Misnad V'u Meleches HaMishkan. Everybody donated to the Meleches HaMishkan. It was a community effort, not a single man. A community effort, like we mentioned, we wanted to reacquire Ar Tzion. So we said, no, it's not enough that few guys will give the money. Okay, now we don't have enough, we need to complete it. So we get some few rich people. But we needed Kol Adas Bnei Yisrael, everybody to participate. Baruch Hashem, over 2,000 people donated towards acquiring Bezrat Hashem Ar Tzion. It's not enough money, and it's in a long term of 3 to 5 or 6 or 10 years. But it is what it is, that everybody participate. This is what the Ramban says. The Ramban even continues more and he says, after the Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to the men, when he went down from Har Sinai, he says, Kol asher diber Hashem ito be'Har Sinai, he spoke to the men, Anoshi. Afterwards, he broke the luchos. He put the masveh on his face. He put a cover. And he went and he came in and he says, now I want men and women. Because there was a distance. He broke the luchos. He broke away from the Jewish people. So now he says, I want everybody to come together. Anoshim Enoshim. Because since it was right after Yom Kippur, when he came down from Har Sinai, so he wanted to gather all the Jewish people. He wanted to say, listen, Chozu lekadmoso mule'avas kululoso. We came back to our original position. So when everything was normal, he was talking to men. But after he broke the luchos, there was a separation, and Moshe Rabbeinu went away from them and he covered his face and it was a distance. Now when Hashem forgave the Jewish people, and he came down, and now it's unification of the Jewish people in Hashem. So now he says, everybody come together and listen. We're going to have everyone participate in donating the Mishkan. So it's not only everyone to donate; it's all everyone here that the unification of Hashem to the Jewish people all together. So that's why the Torah specifies that Vayakel Moshe kol adas bnei Yisrael. Everybody, all the congregation are all connected to the love and the connection of Hashem to the Jewish people. But the Ohr HaChaim HaKodesh brings down the Zohar HaKodesh. And he says, really, tzorich lo das. Need an explanation. Tam shutzach lo'ema vayakel. Why the Torah has to say that Moshe Rabbeinu gathered the Jewish people? All the time when Moshe Rabbeinu speaks, the Jewish people are gathered. So he says, simply I would say, because his face was shining, they're afraid of him. So he has to gather, come close, to bring him close and to show his love and his connection. Basically like the Ramban's answer. That's just a kol hadas. But more, he says, that even more. Lerabos yesoim ktanim v'noshim. He also want the orphans, little kids, orphans and women. Es koiles, tu ribuim. But he brings the Zohar. The Zohar HaKodesh says something amazing. He says, you know why Moshe Rabbeinu had to gather all the Kol Hadas of Israel? This is the language of the Zohar, Chelek Beis, Kuf Tzadik Vov. Omru, she'ikil ha'anoshim la'afrido me'anekevois. He gathered the men to separate them from the women. לצד שהוא יעשות עוד מצוי בינם לבל יזיקים חס ושלום. עד כאן. This is the language of the Zohar. Since they were mixed, so the Satan can damage them. Moshe Rabbeinu is coming down from Shamayim. What was the Chet HaEgel? Vayares HaMecholos, he saw the dancing around. Chazal says it was mixture, men and women. Now when Hashem brings back the love, he knew that we have to fight, there shouldn't be any mixture. Because when you have mixture of men and women, there's certain damage. As brought down in the Zohar, when somebody goes to a Levaya, you have to be extra careful. There shouldn't be mixed men and women. Why? Because the Sultan has a big claim. Everybody sees the death, they see the end. And yet, men and women look at each other and they mix and mingle. It's a stronger taina. When a person doesn't have the death in front of him, Yaskil or Yom HaMoves, okay, so he forgets. But when you have Yom HaMoves in front of your eyes and you mix, it says Mamish, the Sultan Mamish has permission to damage. The Mamish to have a big damage on the Jewish people. So the Zohar HaKodesh says, since the Chet HaEgel, there was a mingle of men and women. Now Moshe Rabbeinu had to do a tikkun. Now when we're coming back to Hashem with love, Avas Hashem, we're building the Mishkan, and there's a love between Hashem and us to Hashem. We have to make sure that there's no mixture between men and women. And he called all the men, he gathered them, he actually had to pull them back. Pull them out from them. What do you have to pull out? To pull out from the women. I had a party in Purim, and I was there for Shikha, and somebody told me in my ears, listen, there's some few girls came here in the back, and they're mingling with the boys. Not our girls of the yeshiva. We don't have girls in the yeshiva. I don't know how they came, who invited them. So I ran, I stopped everything. I said, there's no bracha. The love that we accept in Perah Me'ava, when you have mixture, man and woman, it destroys. So I threw them out. Okay, nicely, not nicely. I went back to dance. I was afraid they would come back. Somebody told me yesterday this. Dudi Ochana says, I have a camera. He said, I looked at my videos, and when I was not 100% together with myself, I said, listen, there's no bracha and shechina if there's mixed man and woman. Please, if you didn't drink, I said, did you drink? He said, I didn't. Make sure that they don't come. So he said he went. He saw them coming back, so he went after them to the basketball court, whatever, a whole story. This morning, my wife comes to me and says, listen, how come we have a party? We cause men and women mixed. We have to close it down. How can we make sure next year doesn't happen? I said, listen, I threw them out. I told other people to do that. So next year, you have to put a big sign, no women are invited. And now we have to have one guy that doesn't drink to be in charge, that he can't mix men and women.
A couple of years ago, you had a separate party for the men and women.
I cannot make it a separate party.
The problem is
Somehow they come, they wiggle in, it's all it is. So the Zohar says, you know why Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayakel, he did, the Torah says, Yatemakil, Moshe is called as Israel, Vayomer Aleim, to separate them from the women. Shikila Hanoshim La'afridom Ha'nekevois. He gathered to separate them from the women. They were mingle with them, you had to separate them. Mechoilo is dancing, boom, you have to take them away. And it's not so easy. They take them away, they come back. They go to this, that, look at that. They come back. לצד שהיעשות עוד מצוי בינו, לבן יזיקו. And he says more. He says here, we had to have the women. Because we want the women to participate in the love of Hashem. That was the whole Ramban's point. We want everyone to donate. Men, women, even orphans. Yesonim Ktanim. We want everyone to participate in the love of Hashem. To connect the love to Hashem. So here, because you have to have everyone, you have to gather them bundles by bundles to separate them. Gathering here all the men and here all the women. To make a separation. כי איקי לאנושים בפני עצמם, והאנושים בעצמם, ולא יבואו יחד, ולא עומדו בשיח, and then he come together, and then he come in one gathering. והכוסו ורומז הדבורים, בעיתותיהם אז בני ישראל, שלא יוצא אל כל הדס, what is called as בני, gather all the men, the bnei Yisrael in one group, and the women, bnei Yisrael in another group. He made a separation. And this is something very important. In Eretz Yisrael many years ago, there was a big split between the Haredim and the Mizrahi. The Haredim, they were anti-Zionists. And the Mizrahim, they were religious people, very actually ultra religious. But they were together with the government, the state of Israel. They believe that the Mashiach is on his way, and it's at a stage of the Mashiach, and therefore we have to be part of the kingdom of Israel, even though they're not religious. We have to put as much as we can religion in it. It's like kings in the time of the Jews. There was not a religious king, but still the Jew was a king, part of the judges and the kings in the Tanakh. It was a big argument. We anti or we part, whatever. But through the years, those two parties were designated very clear. Because the Mizrahi, they were part of the state of Israel, and they took responsibility, a part of the Klal Yisrael, and then they separate themselves. So they had to compromise, and one of the things they compromised a lot is boys and girls. A lot of the schools until the 5th grade, 6th grade, summertime, all the time, to Lunos, to high school, they had boys and girls. In American modern Orthodox, they call them co-ed. Heard about those names? Co-ed schools. Come on in Islam. And what happened from that? A lot of people in America says, I'd rather my boy be co-ed with a Jewish girl, not with a non-Jewish girl. Okay? Depends where you start from, where's your head. But really, to have a bracha and to build a Jewish nation, you have to make a separation. I want to say a small story which represents this split. Many years ago, there was a rabbi named Shlomo Carlebach. He had a community, a synagogue in San Francisco. The name was A House of Love and Prayer. Okay? Right across was a small little shack, small little underground basement. Chabad guy. And everybody was laughing at him. What are you talking about? Today, in a age and era, boys have to be with girls, the Jewish boys and the girls, and they're hippies, and they dive in together, half together. There's a mechitza there, but in the back, they're kissing and hugging. The main thing is Hashem and love and this. And the house of love and prayer had maybe 500 people there on Shabbos. And the Chabad had barely one or two guys, barely a minyan. And we talk about you can't make a bro without a minyan, right? No minyan. This is my father, bless his memory, used to say that. He says, what happened after a few years? You know what happened? There was 24 Chabad houses in San Francisco, and the house of love and prayer barely had a minyan. They had maybe a minyan, 2 million, that's all. He says, why? Because in the end, when people come close to Hashem, they want to connect to a true separation, a pure religion, pure connection to Hashem. And they want to connect to real Kedusha. They search for that. Okay, this is not in the same token we're talking about, but the idea is, a lot of people think when we do Kiruv, so then people are not there, not religious, they don't understand. So how can you mekarev them and you separate them? It was a big argument between Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky and what's his name? And the Rav Elyashiv, when you do Kiruv, can you make it in a synagogue you're giving a lecture in Kiruv, people mix together? Can you put them as a first religion class, separated or can mix together in a synagogue? So Rav Elyashiv brought down a raya from the Gemara. The Gemara says somebody wants to carry a Sefer Torah from one place to another, and there's robbers on the road. Can he put the Sefer Torah under the ukaf and sit on it to hide it? Says he's allowed. So we see that in order to save a Sefer Torah, you can even in a way disgrace it in order to save it. And the Chaim Kanievsky said, not true. You're not allowed to mekarev. And he brought a whole dechia why there's not a raya. Oh, gewalt. Okay, I have to go. You know who's nifta? Esther Shemesh. She took care of me when I was a little boy for many years. My parents were American for many years, he and that. So now the line, he says, they're waiting for you to speak. So I'm not going to get there. He said 1:30. Okay, so I'm going to have to leave. And now Hashem should give us a bracha to build the yeshiva, the kedusha, the tahara, and only shefa and bracha will come.